Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Alex Padilla, Google co-founder Sergey Brin, and Governor Jerry Brown.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I want to start off today by just thanking Google, the entire Google family, for your tremendous and warm hospitality today. And I especially thank you for your firm belief in using the power of technology to solve really big problems. While Moore's Law is doing its part to help, it's your leaders, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, and all you brilliant Googlers who have helped move the world forward in fundamentally positive ways. And society as a whole has come to rely upon the empowering tools you have provided the world, from Google's search engine to Google Maps to Google Earth and Google Wallet, and especially Google Alerts. Politicians really love hearing that their name is in the newspaper. But today we're here to celebrate that we're stepping on the accelerator when it comes to the Google car. As was mentioned, my name is Alex Padilla, and I was proud to have been the author of the bill that the governor is signing today. And I get asked on a pretty regular basis, how do you go from studying mechanical engineering at MIT to a career in politics? And I say it every chance I get. Engineers are trained to solve problems. And I believe that's what my career in public service is all about as well. As a state senator, I've constantly sought out opportunities to apply state-of-the-art technology to address some of the policy challenges that we face and improve people's lives. In recent years, I've authored legislation to require every electrical utility in California to deploy smart grid technology, not just to run our electrical wires a little bit more efficiently and effectively, but to reduce emissions in the process. I've also authored legislation that seeks to harness the power of genetic research and bioinformatics to achieve, sooner rather than later, the world of truly personalized medicine. And so when I was approached with this issue of an autonomous vehicle, my response was the same as the governor's. Wow, I want to learn more. Here was another opportunity to leverage state-of-the-art technology to not address a single, but multiple policy challenges. First and foremost, safety on our roads, but in addition to that, traffic congestion and a significant source of air pollution. So I did my homework, gathered information, and asked a lot of questions, and had the opportunity to take multiple test rides in Google's driverless car on the streets and highways here in Mountain View and in Sacramento. And the more I learned, the more I became convinced we needed this law to embrace this technology. Each year, thousands of Californians are injured or die in automobile accidents, most of which are caused by human error. It doesn't have to be this way. These vehicles have the potential to avoid accidents. That alone was reason enough to pursue this bill. But as I mentioned, SB1298 does more. In many ways, it's a legislative hat trick. We can save lives, we can create jobs, and ease congestion and reduce emissions in the process. That's a dream bill, whether you're an engineer or a politician. And the near unanimous support for this bill by the legislature, I think ought to reaffirm to everybody here that your state leaders do recognize and value the important work here at Google and the technology community beyond you. We greatly value your investments, your innovation, and the hiring you do here in California, all while making the world a better place. So I thank you for your commitment to our state, and I just need to take a moment to thank the governor. For many years, he's been recognized as a visionary, as a true leader. For decades now, he's recognized California as a destination for people with big dreams and big ideas. So I want to thank Governor Brown for his leadership. And it's now my unique privilege to introduce the next speaker. Sergey Brin indeed personifies the American dream and the American experience. After immigrating from Russia to the United States, he studied hard and used his skills in mathematics and computer science, and together with Larry Page, developed what we all know today as Google Inc. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to share a quick story. A few years ago, I co-sponsored a conference on the future of genomics and personalized medicine. 23andMe was the other sponsor. And on my way back to the Capitol, I was driving with my chief of staff, and he was telling me how he met a brilliant woman by the name of Ann Wojcicki. And he asked me if I knew who she was. So I said, well, when we get home, you should Google her. And so he did. And after reading about her, he tells me, laughing, wow, I just Googled Mrs. Google. And I asked him, are you sure Sergey didn't just get a Google alert that you just did that? Honestly, and in all seriousness, I want to share the following in closing. In the political world, we often quote the late Senator Robert Kennedy when he once said that a lot of people look at the world the way it is and ask themselves why. He chose to look at the world the way it could be and ask himself, why not? The political world had Bobby Kennedy. The tech community has Sergey Brin. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I do want to highlight that certainly I've gotten amazing opportunity and been extraordinarily lucky coming to America. And all the more so having come out west here to California. I think the different kinds of projects and subjects that you mentioned, be it genomics, self-driving cars, and so forth, they wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the risk-taking spirit of this state. And that's something that, that I was able to receive and absorb when I came out here, nearly 20 years ago. And that's something that I think really infects all of us as we try to push these challenging technologies to transform the world. I want to talk about why I'm excited about self-driving cars in particular. And it obviously seems the stuff of science fiction, and technologically it's an amazingly fascinating area to work on. It's very hard and fascinating, but it really has the power to change people's lives. That's why I'm really excited about it. Some of you might have seen the work we've already done in testing this with blind people, and there are many, many people who are underserved by our transportation today. Blind is one of them. Some people have other disabilities. Some people are too young. Some people are too old. Sometimes we're too intoxicated. There are many, many reasons why today people are underserved by transportation. Particularly if you look at, even around here in the peninsula, in suburban areas where there are very few alternatives to driving your own car. So that's one big area that self-driving cars can make a transformative difference, which is really enabling huge classes of people who were previously effectively trapped or very hampered in their ability to get around the world. The other is, of course, safety. And safety is a huge challenge for us. That's one of the most difficult things that we undertake from a technological point of view, because there are never enough nines in getting everything right. Like, what happens when your computer breaks down, or when the tire blows out, or when some unexpected thing happens, and we spend night and day fretting about all sorts of rare possibilities. And I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to solve this issue. And I expect that self-driving cars are going to be far safer than human-driven cars. Driving accidents kill 40,000 Americans annually and over 1 million people worldwide every year. And in addition to, of course, there are all of those disabling injuries and so forth. So it's at a substantial cost that we embrace our transportation systems, and I believe that self-driving cars can really eradicate much of that cost. So that's very meaningful to me. Now, beyond that, there are also important issues of lifestyle to all of us. How many of us have sat through traffic? Maybe many of you. I don't know who sat in traffic to get here today. We spend, obviously we spend a lot of time frustrated behind the wheel. The first thing a self-driving car can do is that you at least can be productive doing something else during that time. And it's really a great feeling of relief. For those of you who haven't been in one of these, it drives incredibly smoothly, more smoothly than a human driver can. You know, I got used to it pretty damn quickly the first couple times I took it out. And in fact, you know, currently our software requires that you take control, for example, in construction zones and things like that. And I pretty quickly got really sick of that. I said, no, you drive. What are you talking about? My turn to drive. But beyond that, why does the congestion happen to begin with? The fact is that on a normally operating highway, cars take up a tiny fraction of the space. Mostly, it's all, you know, air between you and the car in front of you, to the sides of you, and so forth. Self-driving cars can actually chain together and use the highways far more efficiently. So potentially eradicating congestion, you know, given the amount of infrastructure we already have, or certainly eliminating it if they're widespreadly, if they're widespread. The other area that I think is really important, and it's something that you might feel out here, and we did a little drive just now. We took one of the Priuses out that drove itself. But the only thing we're passing by is parking lots. And that's, I think it's kind of a scar to the surface of the earth here, because there's, you know, you can see there's great parkland around, but the vast majority of this space on this campus is taken by parking lots. And that's because cars are utilized very poorly. You know, cars actually driven about 3% of the time or so. Most of the time sitting in one of an average 3 spots that a typical car has, if you look at the total amount of parking. When they're in those spots, they can't be very compact because, you know, one driver needs to be able to open the doors, get out, and so forth. And moreover, there's relatively little car sharing because you expect your car to be there, and you can't get it to yourself without keeping it with you at all times. So what I see in this project is the potential to really transform our urban and suburban centers and not need that much parking. You know, you can have a car drop you off here to work, get out, walk through a little bit of green space, and it goes off and takes somebody else somewhere else. Or if you really want to own your car, it can go find somewhere to park itself very compactly and efficiently. And that has the power to really transform our cities, our towns. So when you look at all of that together, just the important role that transportation plays in our lives and in our landscapes, I think the self-driving car can really dramatically improve the quality of life for everyone here in California, in the country, and in the world. Thank you.
So, Sergey, thank you very much. And Senator, thank you for getting this bill to my desk, and all of you for being a part of this in so many different ways. We're looking at a design change, and when you try to go forward facing a lot of obstacles, you can't make it if you're always operating on instructions from the past. You have to envision something new, and that's the essence, as I understand it, of Google, being able to imagine what isn't and bring it into reality. So today we're looking at science fiction becoming tomorrow's reality, the self-driving car. You've heard all the reasons, efficiency, saving energy, utilizing space better, utilizing time. The human being gets much more power out of each day because of this new technology. Remember, we're here in California. Those in other places often look to us and say, whoa, all these problems here. Well, remember, California is the great exception. It's a great exception because it started fast. The gold rush turned this sleepy province, remote to the world, into this mecca where people came by the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions. It was supercharged. And the gold led not just to people making money from gold, but to agriculture and other kinds of things, shipping, transportation, education, all manner of human creativity came from this unexpected find. And now that spirit of supercharging the economy and the culture continues. Right here in Palo Alto with Hewlett-Packard in the 40s, and now Google in the current time. This is a place where new ideas, risk, and imagination come together to really build the future. And that's our legacy. Yeah, we got problems, and we got rules and taxes and little issues that pop up. That's there. Those are the flaws. But in the midst of the flaws, there's such power of design and imagination. And that's why I wanted to emphasize by being here today that this self-driving car is another step forward in this long march of California pioneering the future and leading not just the country, but the whole world. And we lead not just with the people who came from Palo Alto, but the people who came from the former Soviet Union, came from Israel, comes from China, India. This is the place. And it's not that much different than it was in 1848 when people came from all over the world, ordinary people, not knowing what they were going to find. But when they got here, the synergy and the excitement of people discovering and inventing and building was so powerful that California did become the biggest state and still is the most creative state. So with that, I'm going to walk over there and sign the bill. Any questions that some of you folks back there in the shadows might have? Yes.
Question for Sergey. Dan Simon with CNN. Question: when do you see the self-driving cars having a real practical application for everyday folks? How many years away?
That's a great question. So we are, as I mentioned, we've been testing, of course, driving the streets with our engineers. We're trying to allow a broader subset of our employees test them in the near future, like within the year. And I would hope that people can more broadly utilize this technology within several years after that. Yeah, so it's, I mean, sort of single-digit hands I could count on my hand. I don't want to overpromise right now. We have some pretty ambitious targets for our team here. You can see them stressing, looking at me answer this question. Like they're giving me that sign.
Thank you.
Anyway, you can count on one hand the number of years until ordinary people can experience this.
Hi, I'm Sarah McBride with Reuters, and I have a question for Governor Brown. I was wondering about Prop 30, and it looks a bit neck and neck right now. I'm wondering what you might be planning to get it over the edge, any special advertising campaigns or rallies or anything like that?
Well, I didn't come to talk about Prop 30, but you raised the question. We're going to do everything we can to get the message out that our schools need the investment, and Prop 30 is the way to make it happen.
Is Prop 38 kind of getting in the way of Prop 30?
Everything in a campaign gets in the way of everything else. But the message is clear. The vision is unmistakable. Our schools have been massively cut back in the last half-decade, and we need to reverse that. And those who've been the most blessed can participate in a very positive way. And I think when people have to choose where this money should come from and where it should go, I think they're going to pick the schools.
So if a self-driving car runs a red light and gets nabbed by the camera, who gets the ticket?
Whoever owns the car, I would think. But we'll work that out. We'll work that. That's going to be the easiest problem to work out.
Stealth driving cars do not run red lights.
Governor, what role does the government, for those of us who are not familiar with this law you just signed, play in bringing these cars to us?
Well, the law sets up rules and procedures for judging when the car is ready for prime time, when it's ready for the highway, and what testing has to proceed before the authorization is granted and we're really ready to roll. So what government does, we can either get in the way or we can help and set frameworks that facilitate and hopefully even accelerate.
There's been reports that Annette Arangelo with CBS 5. There have been reports that the CHP not exactly on board yet. Law enforcement a little bit skittish about this legislation. Can you address that?
Well, anybody who first gets in a car and finds the car is driving will be a little skittish, but they'll get over it. And besides that, I did talk to the highway commissioner, and he said, yeah, we're not quite think the rules and the regulations have been quite brought to a state of perfection. But for government work, it's close enough, and we're going to keep working on it.
A question for Sergey. It's Spencer Michaels with the PBS NewsHour. You mentioned there are a lot of problems to be worked out, or some. Can you enumerate a few?
Boy, the engineering team certainly has a long list. I mean, it's in terms of developing the sensors that this car operates with, which you'll see the car outside that uses a certain set of sensors, but we've been working on supplementing and improving the array that we have there to underlying reliability in case of hardware failure, for example, which could be either mechanical or electrical. I mean, there's sort of a very long list of things. It's a long list of things that humans have, coped with in the past. For example, for airplane flight and whatnot, they have to deal with the same kinds of things. There are many, many systems that could conceivably fail, and there are procedures and there are technologies to deal with those sets of failures. But it's basically a very long list of edge cases. I mean, that's kind of what you're dealing with. I mean, the typical case, everything's hunky-dory, you're going down a highway, the lanes are clearly marked and everything's fine, it's easy. It's dealing with every possible eventuality, which, we're getting through a long list of eventualities.
Hi, James Temple with the San Francisco Chronicle. It certainly makes intuitive sense that these cars are going to be safer, but at this point, there hasn't been wide-scale testing. Bryant Walker-Smith at Stanford said that the cars would have to go something like 900,000 miles before we could say, without incident, by themselves, without incident, before we would truly know whether they were safer than humans. I guess I'm just curious if you could kind of address how should the DMV go about establishing safety standards and judging driverless cars against those standards?
Yeah, great question. So we've gone 300,000 miles so far. And then obviously in the early miles, we did have to occasionally take over the car for, situations where the driver felt that it would be unsafe to let it go. I think the last, we've done about 50,000 or so miles now without actually a safety critical intervention. But that's not good enough. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. We're continuing to work to go beyond that. I think that testing in the field is a great way to do it. And accumulating those hundreds of thousands of miles is really good. But there are also tests that you can run in labs and on closed courses that also can test a variety of situations. And I think it's ultimately going to be the combination of those things that qualifies a self-driving car. I mean, you kind of go through that for human drivers too. You get tested out on the little course, and then some states you go out on the streets and so forth. The self-driving car is going to face far greater scrutiny than any human driver would, and appropriately so. And I think that's going to be a key element of making these things safe and available.
Mike Rosenberg with the San Jose Mercury News. This question is for Sergey. could you describe Google's interest in this whole technology? I mean, are you guys interested in actually manufacturing these cars, or is it more of a personal interest for you, or how exactly did you guys get involved in this, and what's going to be Google's role going forward?
Yeah, the rule is very simple. We want to use and create technology to dramatically improve the world, and self-driving cars is a clear example of that. That's why we're doing it, and it's something that I mean, there are certainly other companies and automakers that are taking certain levels. I haven't seen anybody take it as far out and as fully self-driving as we have. We have had great conversations with a variety of automakers, and we currently don't have plans to develop our own cars from scratch, for example. So I think anything we do is going to involve partnerships with the industry.
Thank you all for coming. Okay. Thank you very much.